to discuss the ups, downs, and sideways of the sport of figure skating, and maybe give you +5 GOE along the way. This week's hosts are Iman,
Kite,
Cat,
and Lo.
All right.
Woo!
Yay!
We're here!
Second episode.
Second episode, baby!
Episode number 2. This week's episode is on commentary and also iconic programs. So we'll be talking about some of our favorite programs since the year 2000 or so.
This week's episode might be a little bit different from the last one just because of a very distinct lack of international accents. And considering the number of people that responded saying that they couldn't tell Lay and Evie apart, I'm a little concerned about...
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all pretty generic American.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
We apologize, really, truly.
We will rectify that in future episodes, but we thought we'd do just a quick little intro so that maybe you could just familiarize yourself with our voices. All right.
So, my name's Iman. I'm an 18-year-old gremlin who knows what an axis is.
I'm Kite. I'm 21. I'm in New York, and I use my STEM degrees to yell about figure skating protocols.
I'm Kat. I'm a 23-year-old Chicago implant. I'm originally from New York. I work as a lab technician, and yet I spend most of my free time screaming about figure skating.
I'm Lo. I'm 27, and I'm a teacher in the Midwest. I have been crying about Michelle Kwan's spirals since 1998.
We're just going to start off by quickly summarizing some of the biggest news from the past few weeks. And there's a lot to cover, but we don't really have a lot of time. So, we're just going to, list a couple of them. Okay, so last weekend, Yoona Kim skating for the first time since 2014 at All That Skate.
The queen, back at it again.
Amazing. She looked so beautiful.
Her costumes completely, they're so gorgeous.
She could wear a paper bag and look amazing.
But the pictures didn't do her justice. When you saw her, when you actually saw her perform, it was like,
I know.
It's like an
bless
angel.
the Korean fan cams. Thank you. Yes.
God bless fan cams.
Korean fans are amazing. They're amazing.
The quality, so beautiful.
I was amazed. I was like, this isn't professional. I don't believe that.
Honestly.
Yeah.
They have better, footage than some actual, networks. But hey.
We'll get
Most
there.
of them, yeah. They don't have a sky cam there.
Oh, it's true.
That's
yeah.
That's
we're,
true.
We're spared the sky cam for now.
Someone brings a drone into the...
All right, next piece of news, Alyona Savchenko to coach the Kinierums, who left Delilah Sappenfield.
Pretty interesting.
I will be very fascinated. Alyona is, she's a tough cookie.
It could go either way, honestly.
I could 100% imagine Alyona, like jumping over the board, screaming at the judges, and
yeah.
Maybe that's what we need. That's what the sport needs.
I want to see that. I want to see someone fight the judges. It's going to be great.
And I think it really shows a commitment from the Kinierums that they really want to solidify themselves as the top U.S. pairs team. And they're not going to quit, even though they've had a rough season. They're going to keep going. And I think that's really admirable.
Yeah, a lot of respect to them. Okay, third piece of news, Tarasova and Morozov, another pair. They're leaving Nina Moser to work with Maxim Trankov, which is really interesting considering Trankov and Velocijar were Alyona and Robin's biggest rivals for an entire quad.
I feel like that's the best way you could say it's interesting.
Fascinating. And also because Trankov's working with, I think he's working with Robin Zolkowicz.
So we'll just have to wait and see what this brings about, the outcomes for this.
Very interesting. I hope they get better packaging. I do not want to see another Candyman from them.
Oh my God,
please.
don't.
They deserve better. They're very talented.
They're really solid in a lot of their elements.
Let's hope they get good programs because Candyman made me want to wrench my eyes out. It was just awful.
I can't believe we ended both the Olympics and Worlds with Candyman.
It's not a good way to end. It's not a good way to end.
The last piece of news, so yesterday the ISU released proposals for updated element-based values and scale values and level guidelines for singles and pairs.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get too into it because we don't have enough time, and also next week's episode they're gonna dive into that more.
We'll wait for the Congress to actually happen before we say anything definitive about that.
We thought we'd also mention that the ISU Congress is running from June 4th to 8th, and it'll be live streamed on the official ISU skating YouTube channel. which will be a lot of fun. I think all of us are going to be watching that.
It might be a drinking game. Maybe not. We'll see.
We'll see.
It could. Oh, that could be dangerous, actually. Let's not
That
do
could
that.
be.
Don't drink and watch the ICU Congress, guys.
Well, not so much license to kill, more license to thrill.
Now for our next segment, we will be talking about commentary. First of all, we'd like to acknowledge that commentary is a super difficult thing to do. It's hard to make the balance between pleasing longtime fans and more casual fans who might just be checking in for big competitions like nationals or the Olympics or Worlds. So it's not easy, folks. It's very difficult.
You can cut them some slack, but then again, there's some things that you just sort of can't forgive.
I think the important thing is that, like, we don't want to paint commentary specifically as, like, uniformly bad or good. Like, I know that we all probably have a couple of commentators that we're like, we don't really want to listen to them, or like we're not a huge fan of like maybe the way that they express their opinions, or like the opinions themselves. But everyone messes up and says stuff wrong, but you know, they might have some insight in other aspects. So we do want to be fair to those people. Like, not everyone is perfect. Like, even commentators that I like.
Everyone always someone, you know, people are bound to mess up. And, you know, sometimes you might just not like a person because of their voice, or sometimes it's like, oh, they said this thing, and you might have a bias against that person. So you just have to find, either you don't watch it without commentary, you watch it without commentary, or, you know, you find that one pair of commentators who are, you know, perfect for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to strike that balance, I think. We do have to acknowledge that commentators have a difficult job in that they are catering to their own specific audiences. Like, you know, they're catering to their own specific, like, nation's audiences. So it might sound biased to people that are not in that country. But, I mean, ultimately, they're TV commentators who want to make money for their network. So
I mean, it's their job to sell a product, and the product is the skaters from their home nation. Assuming this is kind of a national broadcaster,
right?
So it's their job to sell certain narratives that the feds are pushing. That's what they do. It's their job.
Yeah.
So you can be upset with it. You can not like that narrative, but it's how it is. It's, you know, if you don't like it, then find a different commentator.
Also, bias is, you know, it's bound to happen because it's human nature. Sometimes you might like a skater, you know, it could be very blatant when they like a skater again versus when they don't like a skater. And that's, you know, it's not a good it's not nice hearing that, like, 1 second they're just praising one skater to high heaven and then sort of ignoring another one. They're like, oh, you know, they're great, but this other skater, wow, they're amazing and they're gonna rule the world and whatnot. So it can be annoying, but it's sort of understandable, I guess.
Yeah.
It's human nature. We all have our own biases and non-favorites, for lack of a better term. And it's natural that commentators are that as well. Although, of course, it should be their job to have some measure of objectivity, but that human bias is still going to creep in. I think that's okay to a certain degree.
Yeah.
It's a problem when they're just blatantly ignoring certain flaws or are overly criticizing a skater while brushing off another.
Yeah, it's like important to remember that commentators are kind of like a new viewer's gateway to figure skating in a way, because when you tune in, like, if you're a new fan, like, chances are you don't really know what's going on with the sport, and it's like a really technical sport. And so you really rely on the commentators to, like, ease you slowly into that and to explain, like, what's actually happening on the ice.
I agree.
And that's why it's so important, I guess, to address this, because that can really make or break, like, viewership, which is, let's be honest, not doing super great in the US. Like, in the 90s and even the early 2000s, figure skating was on TV, like, every weekend. Like, they show nationals, maybe, like, the last group or two groups of Worlds, the Olympics. And that's pretty much it for the year. Like, you don't really get live events anymore.
It's disappointing because you have people who want to be able to see all these competitions, but it's like, if they're not getting any traction, then, you know, what's the point? You know, if there's no money in it, what's the point?
It's their job to make money.
Yeah.
They're chasing the money, and unfortunately, it's not a money-generating sport.
Also, another, as to what Kite was saying, for newer fans or people who are, you know, more casual, it can be very helpful. because sometimes you may watch and you think, oh, this person, they're doing amazing, and then like the commentator says, oh no, they did this wrong, or they did that wrong, or this their technical score is going to be high because of this, or it's going to be low because of that. And they, like, say for example, they say the jump, they'll be like, oh, that's a quad saw, and you'll be like, oh, that's what it looks like. And
right.
you're not going to think, oh, everything is a triple axel, because everything was a triple axel in the beginning for everyone.
But yeah, that's a good point. Bringing out the commentators' jobs are kind of to highlight what is important, what you're supposed to be watching in figure skating, just because, from like an outsider perspective, figure skating is pretty technical, and for the most part, everyone looks similar. Like, they're all skating on the ice, but talking about skating skills, jumps, all of those things, like, they don't really mean anything to most new viewers. And and it's also a matter of like, most commentators have to also like balance simplifying figure skating terminology, for the sake of these casual viewers, but also trying to be as just being as informative as possible without overloading.
For people who are interested in learning it,
Sometimes, like, some technical aspects, trying to explain that, it's going to take a lot longer. And it would be like, if they went into that, like, people who don't know much about figure skating would be completely lost. And that would be off-putting for them. It would be like, oh, what's the point of me watching if I can't understand what they're saying?
Also, I feel like because a lot of new viewers tend to focus in on jumps, especially for singles and pairs. That's what the commentators also tend to highlight as well. They tend to point out a lot of the jumps, mentioning whether or not someone did well with the jump, I guess. But at the same time, because you're a new viewer sometimes and you don't know what's important in figure skating, you just think the jumps are the only thing that's important without highlighting the other aspects of figure skating that make it more complete, not just jumping. So I think that my personal favorite commentators are like some of the ice dancers in the US, like Tan, Charlie, and Ben. They all do a really good job. I think they're constructive and they're informative at the same time, but they don't always just focus in on the jumps. They kind of focus on a lot of the other aspects, like skating skills, musicality, that kind of thing.
And they manage to keep things very positive as well. They'll be critical of skaters when they mess up, but in a way that is constructive and informative to the viewer. So it's just very pleasant as a viewer, to me at least. I don't like it when they just pile on certain skaters. Like, we know that they messed up if they fall 4 times. Like, you don't need to go over it over and again. Maybe explain why they might have fallen. Like, where did they go wrong? What was their access crooked? Etc., etc.
It's distracting when they start, spewing negative comments like, oh, they did this. Like, instead of informing how they could have, possibly made the jump, or what might be the reasoning behind them falling, they just sort of start criticizing them for missing that jump. It's like, oh, he's gonna lose so many points for this, is he gonna be able to make this or that? And it's like,
okay, why are they losing points? Like, what went wrong going into the jump? Could you please tell us, instead of just saying they're a disaster?
Yeah, instead of belittling the skater for their mistakes, they should just be more subjective and be like, oh, this is what happened.
Exactly.
And this is, they still have this left in their program,
Yeah, that's why I think, like, the TES box that they're putting kind of, like, in the top corner
of
the broadcast is a good thing. I think it is, and it, like, goes in, like, real time. Yeah.
The one for Worlds, amazing. I like that you can see, like, the element names and then the GOE and everything.
I feel like that is going to be so helpful for newer fans. And that's why newer fans, like, this year have been able to, like, grasp onto elements so fast, because you have that there and you're able to say, oh, so that's what they're doing, and then you're able to follow along with the sport and not just sit there, with your mouth open, like, what is going on?
Just expecting the commentators to tell you everything, which they can't. I mean, they can't do that. So it's really nice. Like, I didn't really learn the jumps until, like, 2007, because we just didn't have the technology back then, which sounds like I'm talking about the Stone Age, but 2006 was the Stone Age. It might as well be,
I feel like it's also easier on the commentators to have that TES boss, because you don't have to be like, oh, beautiful quad sal, or like, you know, like you don't have to keep naming out all of the elements if they're already being shown to you in real time. And like, it is an issue of like, when should you be talking during a figure skating program? Like, at what point do you step back and just let the program speak for itself?
Yeah, there's some commentators who speak at the worst times. Like, you're trying to trying to focus on a program, and like the music is beautiful, the skater, they're really into it, and you're like watching them express themselves, you know, through, you know, figure skating, and then you just have this voice just going, talking about the most irrelevant stuff.
This is what the person liked when they were 10.
Yeah, they're just like...
or whatever. Yeah, it's like, really, I don't need to hear about this right now.
It's so annoying.
The bantering, like...
Oh, yeah, no.
Random banter during programs is one of my pet peeves. Like, I just absolutely hate it.
There's no point in making jokes.
Like, that's not what we're here for.
Yeah.
It's not what we're here for.
And, like, I feel like it's especially difficult when the commentary is, like, in a different language. So a lot of people watching don't even know what they're saying, but they're talking a lot. And it's like, honestly, like, shout out to the fans who go to the trouble of translating that commentary for the rest of us.
For sure.
Thank you.
You guys are amazing.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, like, I sometimes like watch the Russian YouTube videos, like if I need to see replays, like after like performances that I've missed. And man, some of the Russian commentators, like Tarasova, she just goes off. She really loves to talk through programs, even though I have no idea what.
Like, what are you saying?
I love that you can hear her in like other people's like comment, like in the CBC commentary, you can hear her yelling in the background. Iconic.
Like, what is she saying? What is going on in her brain? I would pay to know.
I feel like with some commentators, they have so much enthusiasm and emotion.
I love it.
Like, even if you may not understand what they're saying, you're enjoying it because you're just like, you know what, I feel that's the same thing. Because sometimes commentators get choked up, or they start like laughing hysterically because they're like, oh, this is so amazing, how are they doing this? And you feel that emotion with them because you're like, you know what, me too, man.
Honestly, I just like commentators that you can tell enjoy their job and they care about the sport they're talking about, because honestly, in some other sports that I follow, the commentators do not care. They don't care about learning the rules. They don't care about the athletes, and it's incredibly frustrating as a viewer to watch. So what's one of the things I look for in figure skating commentators? Do you care about the sport you're following? And most of them do, to their credit. Pretty much all of them do. But in some other sports, that's not the case.
Speaking about not caring about the sport, some commentators do not care about getting pronunciations right, and that is such a big pet peeve.
Oh my god.
So annoying, because sometimes, like, Shoma Uno is not a hard name.
It's 4 syllables, y'all.
It's not
4 syllables.
Like, I feel like it's the bare minimum. Not only that, but like sometimes it's just so infuriating when the commentator gets the name wrong after hearing it over the speakers. You know what I mean? It's just so jarring. Like, did you not just listen to them say the name?
You're doing this deliberately.
And sometimes the pronunciations it's not even a pronunciation. They just create a completely new name.
Yeah.
Like freaking Yazunori. That was
Yazunori.
Like syllables that didn't exist.
Kite and I definitely feeling that solidarity, that Chinese name solidarity though. Like the poor Chinese names. Like, listen, we're not too picky. I think we're not too picky, but like saying Han Song, like even acknowledging that like the C is not like a hard K sound, like that is the bare minimum. Like, shout out to Terry Gannon, who's so far the only one. I'm not sure, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like Terry Gannon so far is the only commentator that I've heard actually make an attempt at his name.
I don't think anyone expects him to get it perfectly, because it is a different language, but you know, at least do your research. Like, Wikipedia can help
His
you.
name is not Hong Kong.
Exactly.
Yeah, Hong Kong. That's Amazing.
That's a city. That is a city. That is not a name.
Sui Wenjing.
Oh
boy.
You know, I feel bad because I always thought her name was Sui, and I was like, oh, it's not. When you find out later on, and that's misleading towards newer fans too.
You're not a commentator. You're not getting paid. You're not getting paid to read these people's names.
Yeah, you should do your research. It's the bare minimum. Like, also, it's just disrespectful to just any person, to not at least make an attempt.
Like, imagine you're going off to, skate and you're, like, nervous and you're like, I have to do this. And then they go, oh, they completely butcher your name. And that's just so off-putting.
It's just like, insult and injury. Not really,
it
but
really
like...
is. It's like, oh, great, they don't know how to say my name. And some of the names they, like, mispronounce, like, Javier, that's not a hard name.
No.
It's not a hard name. And then it's just like, Javier. What are you doing? It's not even like it's an accent thing, because it's like, at least respect the accent that the name is coming from. Like, it's a Spanish name. Don't turn it into an English thing. That's just something that bothers me personally.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, just in general, I think that commentators should be held accountable for doing proper research. Just like even things like mentioning injuries or other extraneous circumstances around skaters. I mean, most do, but sometimes they skip it, and like those kinds of small things, like even minor injuries, like they do provide a lot of context for someone's performance if you don't know who they are.
Personally, I also think it's important that they should mention any conflicts of interest. For example, if they coach any skaters who are currently performing, or if they've ever trained with them in the past or choreographed for them in the past. Sometimes that does not get mentioned, and you can tell there's a difference in the commentary. Some are able to keep it professional, some are not.
Yeah, and like the thing is that like I'm always conflicted about this, because coaches and skaters are pretty common knowledge, so maybe they just assume that people know it and that they don't have to mention it. I know that like Carol Lane has mentioned like offhand that she coaches Piper and Paul, but I don't remember if like Tracy Wilson ever mentioned it.
No, she hasn't. I don't think she has.
Yeah, but she commentates them all the time, and it's just a casual thing.
It is, but it should be like, oh,
yeah,
that's my skater right there.
For casual fans, I think it might still like be a good idea just for this to be mentioned, because you can't expect them to know like who's coaching, like which skater is coached by which coach or whatever.
That's true.
If they do say, oh, this is my skater, the viewer might be like, oh, they might have a bit of bias in this, It might be like, oh, that's their skater, so they might just be like a little more low-key and be like, that's fine. But actually, no, because if they're their coach, they'll be more critical about it.
So obviously the things that we like the least in our commentators is genuinely and truly problematic behavior.
Mm-hmm.
For example, questioning the gender of skaters is not okay. Making extremely stereotypical and racist comments about a skater's nationality is also not okay.
Yeah, there's some pretty terrible and egregious examples of like racism and sexism in commentary. And I mean, not only does it cast a really awful negative light on the skaters themselves, but like also on the sport,
It does. Because this is supposed to be like, people say, oh, it's more of an accepting sport, and then you see the commentators saying such awful, nasty things, and you're like, is it really though?
Yeah, and also because I feel like sometimes figure skating does have some negative stereotypes, like, a lot of male figure skaters face a lot of negative stereotypes. And then to hear commentators, people that are deemed experts in this sport, reinforce the stereotypes, it's just the impression that the viewers are going to have as well.
And it's something like I guess they don't have a right to sort of question something like, oh, what's their sexuality or what's their gender. They shouldn't have an input in that, because that's not what they're commentating. They're commentating
on the performance.
Their skating.
Yeah.
And for them to, come in and say, and, make rude, egregious comments about a skater, about something that has nothing to do with their skate, it's disrespectful, it's rude, and it's unnecessary. And
it's professional, too.
It's ultimately uninformative, and the point of a commentator really is to, like, be informative about figure skating and to tell
Exactly.
us what's going on the ice, and that's just it's not relevant at all. And
as well as the skater, and that's the ultimate sin as a commentator, in my opinion.
Some, you see some examples of what, some commentators say, and you just think, how did they get away with this? Because it's like it's disgusting because it's, it's homophobic, it's sexist, it's transphobic, and you don't need this from a commentator. That's not their job.
It doesn't do anything to advance figure skating viewership around the world, perpetuating awful negative stereotypes, or even like lies about skaters and those kinds of things,
or bringing in like scandals and stuff, or like rumors, not scandals, rumors.
Yeah, rumors, just gossip, petty gossip. It's completely unnecessary, and
it's not.
Has nothing to do with the sports.
This skater might be gay, this skater might be this might, like, that doesn't matter. In that, if you're really trying to fill in the time for, while you're commentating, just don't say anything. Just, let the viewer enjoy the skate.
And to be fair, I think that the vast majority of commentators are overwhelmingly positive about skaters and about the sport.
They don't make it personal.
Yeah, it's not like a personal attack or anything, but, these kinds of egregious comments, like, they do exist. Like, we're not going to pretend that they don't exist.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about commentary without talking about things like this.
And sometimes it's not even like the really, really blatantly sexist stuff, like, some of the stuff that was said about like Johnny Weir, but like, just even offhand comments that sound kind of vaguely
the skater's a man's man kind of thing,
right? Or saying stuff like, Japanese skaters tend to portray wilting flowers, like that's like
it's such a stereotypical and that's just like downright racist thing to say.
It just makes you scratch your head. Yeah,
it just makes you go no.
Exactly.
It makes you feel uncomfortable because you're like, that's not right.
It's not accurate.
It's not accurate at all.
It's very tired. It shows that they didn't do their research.
Right.
If you're gonna tell me, Wakaba Higuchi is a wilting flower, I'm gonna stare at you.
Skyfall would like a word with you
and tell you, are you blind?
Well, that comment that I was mentioning was actually during Wakaba's Skyfall, and
which is why
it was like most Japanese ladies portray wilting flowers, and it's nice to see Wakaba portray someone strong. Like, we haven't seen someone like her since Miki Ando.
Malice Sato would like a word with you.
Exactly. My thoughts, exactly. But like I said, the majority of commentary, I think, is constructive and it is informative. But obviously there are some, improvements. Like, I personally do still learn a lot from commentators. Like, I think ice dance is probably one of the more abstract.
Definitely. I need it.
Disciplines. Yeah, definitely one of the more abstract disciplines to watch. Like, my mom was watching the team event short dance, and she was texting me like, oh, I thought that this program was like really good. And then the commentator was like, nope, she did this wrong and this wrong and this wrong. So I was like, oh, okay.
Ice dance on its own is really hard to interpret though, because you see these skaters
Thank you,
gliding.
Tanith White. I love her.
You see these skaters floating around, and you're like, this is so beautiful. I love it. It's so graceful. And then you hear the commentators just saying, oh, this is disrespectful to the sport. What are they doing? And you're just sitting there like, oh, never mind.
I respect Tanith a lot, actually, just because, she's pretty constructive to everyone, but she's not afraid to voice her opinions as well. Like, I remember, like, during the free dance, Virtue and Moira got like a level 2 on their rumba, and she was explaining that like Tessa had a flat choctaw, and the judges may have called it, so they got a level 2, but she couldn't see it from her angle. So, those kinds of things are really, really informative. So I respect to her.
Like, genuinely insightful stuff. Like, and it's very necessary for me as someone who doesn't know ice dance as well as pairs and singles. It's super good to have that level of expertise for ice dancing in particular.
And it just gives you like background knowledge, and you're just able to sort of keep it with you for the next time when you're watching. You're like, oh, I can call that out. I know what they're talking about now.
Yeah, agreed.
One judge has them second. Should be carried off and spanked.
And now we're going to talk about some of the most iconic programs from 2000 and beyond.
Yeah, and like, so we each picked one program from each discipline, which meant a lot of our faves got cut, but for the interest of time, like, we know that we didn't get everyone's favorite programs on this list, and, you know, we're sorry in advance, but, you know, we had to limit it.
Iconic is a pretty loaded term, so it's more, because, you know, obviously everyone has, figure skating is subjective, so our favorite programs might not be yours, and, you know, that's perfectly fine, because, you know, everyone has their own opinion.
My program for the ladies was Unikim's 2010 Olympic free skate, Gershwin, Rhapsody, and F. Oh man, I have so many favorite Una programs. Like, I was picking between this one and also Danse Macabre, but then I ended up picking Gershwin just because I just think that this particular piece of music is just so incredibly abstract, which I think makes it so much harder to interpret, and yet I love it so much. I'm usually not such a huge fan of really, really abstract music, but Una skating to it, like, just highlights her musicality and her incredible interpretation skills so well. Like, she just sells every moment, and she just looks like she's freestyling through some of it. And, you know, on top of doing some of the most difficult elements, like the Ina Bauer into, like, the double axel, it's just amazing. It just really, and then considering the circumstances of that moment, you know, we talk about iconic programs in terms of like the program itself, but also in terms of like the circumstances, like why are they so well known through history? You know, maybe it's at the Olympics, it was like an Olympic moment. Like, this was an Olympic moment for sure. You know, she was under
one of the
so
best
much
Olympic
pressure.
performances ever.
I'm pretty sure that's what Sandra Bezic said too, you know?
It was. It genuinely was. It's one of the most memorable for me. She had so much pressure on her. She was the unanimous favorite going in. She had her entire country watching her, and she just delivered on the best possible.
Oh, what a way to deliver. What a way to deliver.
Yeah, I always thought that Una was like the definition of how technique lends itself to artistry. Like, she had perfect jumps, gorgeous spins, incredible
Textbook
musicality.
jumps.
Textbook, yeah.
Her opening triple Lutz, oh my.
The height on her jumps is just phenomenal.
She doesn't hesitate. It's incredible.
She really doesn't. That's another thing that I love about Una, is that how seamless her skating is. Like, you'll see, you know, it doesn't seem like this is choreographed. It just seems like she just got on the ice and it was just off the top of her head, and she's just going.
Interpretation through the roof.
It feels like she's painting on a blank canvas, is the way I view that program.
I totally agree with that metaphor, just because, like, the abstract nature of the music and then the way that she moves across the ice, you know.
And to see her face at the end, like, Una was always a pretty stoic competitor. You know, back in like but her face at the end,
big moment, yeah.
Yeah, like just watching her finally break down it's indescribable.
Yeah. Still the benchmark to me for a 150 plus.
Absolutely. Like, yeah, the scoring system has changed since then, but
It holds up. It holds up.
It held up for 6 years, right?
I feel like if she performed that today, she would still have been able to, you know, hold up against the newer skaters. And that just shows how good she is. Is that
timeless.
If she went back into competition today, she would be able to hold up against these, you know, the newer girls. And that's just so amazing, and I just love Una. I'm sorry. Okay, continue.
No, I think we're good.
Okay, so for the men, I chose Daisuke Takahashi's Swan Lake, aka Cyber Swan.
Woo, yes.
yes.
Basically, I could have chosen literally anything Dai ever did because he's just the best. But I went with Cyber Swan just because if there is one program that I love to show people who aren't really into skating, this is the one. It's so entertaining. It's so unique. The step sequence is obviously it's iconic. And there are two of them. There's two different footwork sequences, and they're both just, he's a rock star. He's just completely owns it. It's so innovative. There's never been like anything like it before. There hasn't been anything like it since. Nobody could do that but him. He's the king. I love him.
That's something I love about his program is because it's like he added a variation, a hip hop Asian variation to a classic, and he made it work. It wasn't cringy, because you see some programs where they try to mash in different types of music and it just doesn't work. And his costume and just obviously his footwork.
That was a lot. It was a lot of costume.
Listen, the hair was amazing.
But it worked.
It worked so well, yeah. You don't see a lot of hip hop in figure skating, let alone hip hop.
Hip hop Warhorse, amazing.
Hip hop War. He literally remixed it with Beyonce. Like, God bless him. And he looks like a Johnny's Idol.
Yep.
He's just everything you can want. So entertaining, so genuinely good. His jumps are at his best at that point, in my opinion.
And just his charisma throughout the whole performance. It's because I feel like had anyone else done that performance, it would have been so strange, because he had that smug look in his face. He's just like, you know what? I know what I'm doing right now, and I know that I'm amazing you, and that just makes you enjoy the performance even more, because it's just like, you know what? This dude is doing that, and no one else can do that.
One of my favorite things about it is just the crowd. It's just they're just losing their mind, like they're at a concert or something, and it's so cool. He just brings that reaction out of you. He was so special.
It's so amazing, because you know what, honestly, if I was in that crowd, I would have lost it as well.
Wouldn't we all?
I would have cried.
He deserves it. He deserves every single thing. I also, he's the king of musicality. Whenever someone asks for a definition of musicality in figure skating, I find it hard to say, so I'll just say, just watch a Dai program and you'll understand. He feels it. He feels it in every movement. So, God bless him. I love him.
My favorite pair of all time, everyone who, knows me knows that they're my favorite pair of all time. It's Shen and Zhao. They're 2003 World Championship free skate to Turandot. It's like, it's iconic. It's the OG Turandot, I think.
The best.
Should have been retired after this, honestly.
Yeah, honestly.
Except for Suzuka. Suzuka could skate to it too.
True. But Shen and Zhao deserve a royalty every time it's skated too.
Yeah. You gotta credit them.
Yeah, no, Shen and Zhao are probably the most iconic pair of the 2000s. They were dominant for so long. I mean, it was this was the program that introduced me to pairs. When I was 7 years old, I didn't know pairs was a discipline until I saw Shen and Zhao. And they have such incredible chemistry. I mean, they did eventually end up getting married, but this was even before they even started dating. So, but they were I feel like they were one of the most complete pairs of the 2000s. They had amazing throws, amazing musicality. Honestly, anyone who says that East Asian skaters are not expressive, go watch that program and come back to me.
Honestly, the quality was not good, and I could still see that they were very expressive.
It was filmed on a potato, and it's
so unfortunate, because this was the same program that they used the previous year in 2002, and there's a high quality version of that video on YouTube.
That's infuriating.
Yeah. But the program itself, I really enjoyed that they use a unique music cut. Actually, they include the kind of Chinese influenced music in the middle of that track that people very rarely include. It allowed for a little bit more creativity with the choreography. The lifts, so gorgeous. Again, I think that 6.0 lifts were a lot more aesthetically pleasing. I'm not really a huge fan of the whole grabbing blades thing. I like the open look, with the legs out.
Agreed. Same.
Whatever. I'm not going to get too salty about that. And then the Nessun Dorma part, oh my god, gets me so...
just the music gets me emotional.
Honestly, as soon as the Nessun Dorma part hits, I feel like I get chills and I get emotional.
And the crowd reaction,
so beautiful.
You can they start applauding, and they get a standing ovation 30 seconds before they even end, and you can hear them once they finish the program, you can hear the crowd chanting 6, 6, 6, 6 in the background. And this was in DC, so it's not even it wasn't even a hometown crowd, and this piece is so legendary that Sui and Han, they used it for their Olympic skate, obviously, and they even had to ask permission to skate to it. And Zhao Hongbo said, yeah, okay, you can skate to it, but you have to skate to it better than we did. So that's why I really didn't mind that Sui and Han were using it. I knew that this piece was so integral to the Chinese pair's legacy. And like Wenjing said that she was inspired to skate by watching them skate Turandot in the 2002 Olympics. So, I mean, that just shows the magnitude. And like, before we even move on, I just want to quickly go on like a pair spiel just because they make me super emotional for like so many reasons. But their coach, Yao Bin, was the first ever Chinese pair skater, and he learned to skate through photographs because, you know, China was censoring Western images and all that, so they really couldn't get a lot of material to learn. And like, he was bad. He was pretty bad. He went to Worlds 3 times in the 80s and placed dead last each time. It was really, really sad. There were like stories about how they were like laughed off the ice, and they were actually like really, really funny. But after he retired, he was like, nope, screw that. I'm going to turn China into a pairs powerhouse. And then 20 years later, Shen and Zhao became the first Chinese pair to ever win an Olympic medal in pairs and the first to win a world title. So, you know, even though the 2003 Worlds where they won their second world title is like the most famous iteration, it feels like the culmination of all their hard work because they kind of messed up in 2002 a little bit. And I just really love the image of Yao Bin crying when they finish. It just really gets me.
When you see, you know, a grown man like that just cry after seeing a performance, you're just like, you know what, this is beautiful. This is amazing. After what you see that performance, and it's just, you know, you're blown away by, first of all, the chemistry between those two. It's just like, you know, I'm not surprised that they got married. But the use of music, their musicality, their, you know, the jumps, the spins, everything is just so, the whole package was so just robust. And you're like, you know what, this is what pairs skating should be like.
Yep.
And that's saying something.
I have to say that this program also gave me my all-time favorite commentating moment when the British esports guys saw that one of the judges ranked them second in ordinals. He threatened to spank them.
They should be carried off and spanked.
They should be carried off and
It
spanked.
should be carried off and spanked.
Good.
So good.
You know what?
He's
Not
Exactly.
wrong though. Not
He's
wrong.
right. Completely
He's
right.
right.
Amazing. So yeah, that's my favorite commentary moment ever. Will probably never be topped because it's just the most accurate.
So my favorite dance program is actually Davis and White's Scheherazade from the Sochi
Also
Olympics.
amazing.
Amazing. They were dominant for 2 seasons, undefeated prior to the Olympics. And just, from the very beginning, that opening curve lift, I think they said that they actually trained that for about 2 years before they ever put in a program because it was that
entry
difficult.
Is so crazy.
He grabs her by like the wrists and like just lifts her onto his back, and they make it look effortless, like you were saying. And it's
again, it's like she just flew into his, it's amazing.
Yeah.
The choreography in the beginning is also so gorgeous.
The changes in music are really good, I think.
Also, Meryl looks like a Greek goddess.
She does.
She looks like Megara from
Hercules. She does, yeah.
Megara from Hercules.
Charlie's also such a good performer. I feel like he gets overlooked a little bit. Like,
I agree.
He's a very, very good performer.
He's fantastic, and I feel like people sort of, I get why, because Meryl is just, she is sort of like, again, it's like with Sway, it's people
he like shows her
more
off very, very well.
Yeah, he does show her off very well.
He knows exactly how to
exudes a lot of charisma himself. Yeah.
But it's like they were the first American dance team ever to win an Olympic gold medal.
They've left a real impact. I miss them.
Yeah, it's like it's an Olympic program. Like when you think of an Olympic program, that's kind of what you think of. Is like it's fitting that it happened with Scheherazade that they won the Olympic
Meryl
gold
and
medal.
Charlie, please come back. We need you.
They haven't officially retired. It could happen.
True.
If you're listening.
Can they please come back? Honestly, I would cry.
So, for our grand finale, we have collectively decided on one program that we believe to be the most iconic of the 2000s, and that is...
Seimei.
Seimei.
It's Seimei. It's Seimei. What to say? Where to start?
Can we okay, we will start on like the opening note of when the program starts.
That's
his
look
breath
on his face.
No, that's his breath on the recording.
Yeah. Even before the music starts, he deliberately put in his own breath, and
because it calms him down.
it calms him down and it sort of helps him focus. And that's just such, he's so calculated. He's so calculated. He knows what's gonna help him. And the fact that he edited the music himself.
It's just the amount of detail that he put into the construction, every single part of it, the choreography, the music edits, the costuming, all of these things that it was his passion project. He personally put in so much of his soul into this program. Like, you could really, really feel it. Yeah.
He met the actor from the movie.
Yeah.
Shaylin Bourne watched the movie for him so she could get an idea of what he wanted to portray on the ice.
And it's just so representative of the Japanese culture, which he really, really wanted to, portray. Japanese music is not that often used, or at all.
No,
really
never used almost.
In figure skating. And it's so representative of his culture, which is so minimalist, I think. Doing the most with the least.
And that's such a bold move to sort of, stray away from Western music.
Yeah, he knew it was a risk.
And it was a huge risk, because if he strayed away from, like, for example, there is an entire segment which is just drums, right? It's just a
masterpiece. It's a masterpiece.
Step sequence
and using suspense.
That's such a difficult thing to do, to not have music to back you up, and he just went with it, and you see. It's so perfect, and you could see how much effort he put into it, the musicality, again, step sequence, the choreography, everything is just phenomenal.
And the choreo sequence at the end, like, always
iconic.
It will,
the Hydro Blade
especially in the Olympic skate. Oh my God.
Breaking character just for a moment, like right after his spin, you could just see the smile, like, exuding, like
you could see him grinning, and it's like he knew he did it, and
it was special. Who cares if it wasn't really in sync? It didn't really matter.
That's another thing I wanted to add. It's despite the fact that it was not a perfect, it was not a clean skate, right? He did stumble, his jump, two of his jumps were, and
we still remember it. It'll
the
hold
most
up
memorable.
the test of time.
It's still my favorite performance of that.
Mine too.
That program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same. It's my favorite performance from it's just such a memorable performance, because you see how, the road to the Olympics and all that he's been through, and the fact that everyone was just like, oh, he's not going to win it,
He's not going to be on the podium.
It really felt like a victory, like, in every sense of the word. I think Brian Orser said it felt like a victory, not just because he won the gold medal, because he conquered himself. He conquered the injury.
He proved himself to everyone who was like, he's not going to be able to do, 2 OGMs. That's
like, no one's done it in 66 years, and he's doing it with a recycled program, and he, he was injured like 3 months ago. He's not going to be on the podium, and then just to win with that program,
it was perfect in its imperfections. I feel like that's the best thing.
There's something so fairy tale like about him winning with his passion project. A program that he put, it's in his blood, that performance.
It's like every program obviously is designed to get like the maximum amount of points it can get, right? But this is one of the few, I think, that felt like it was more than just a means to an end.
Since the hosts wanted to talk a good deal more about iconic programs, not everything could fit into today's episode. Stay tuned for a bonus episode next week with the programs that we couldn't fit into today's.
All right, the next episode will be hosted by Tilda, Yogita, Gina, and Red, and they'll be discussing the proposed rule changes that may be approved by the ISU Congress, which, again, is June 4th through 8th, and will be live streamed on the ISU Skating YouTube channel.
If you want to get in touch with us, then please feel free to contact us via Twitter at In The Low Podcast, or on Tumblr at inthelowpodcast.tumblr.com.
We're on YouTube as well. Just search for the In The Loop podcast, and you'll find our episodes there too.
If you're listening on iTunes, please consider leaving a rating and a review if you enjoyed the show.
Thanks for listening. This has been Kite,
Iman,
Lo,
and Kat. See you soon.